McHenry County Zoning Board of Appeals. This is case number 2022-025, PIN number 08293002 at 1517 North Illinois Route 47, Woodstock, Illinois. Property consists of 5.35 acres and is located on the west side of Illinois Route 47, approximately 1,800 feet east of Cooney Drive in Greenwood Township. The applicants are McNulty 47 LLC. The request is for a conditional use permit allowing for the operation of a landscape business with outdoor storage in the B1 neighborhood business in the B1 neighborhood business district. I'd like to introduce the board at this time. What do I do with it? Vicki Gardner, Lunda Township, Robert Kusin, Algonquin Township, Kurt Schnabel, Riley Township, Donald Smolinski, Grafton Township, David Stone, that's me, McHenry Township. I didn't miss anybody, right?
No.
Publisher's certificate of publication from a newspaper is dated January 14th, 2023, and thereby meets ordinance requirements. Affidavit of posting was signed and date posted was January 25th, 2023, and thereby meets ordinance requirements. Affidavit mailing was signed and date mailed was January 10th, 2023, and thereby meets ordinance requirements. Survey has been checked against petition, legal notice, and publication in newspaper, and all three match. Filing fees have been paid. The endangered species consultation was not required for this petition. The McHenry County Soil and Water Conservation Report has been received. What do we have here? Can you give your name and address?
Mike McNulty, 1517 North Route 47, or do you want my home address?
And
Mary McNulty.
you want to grab that microphone and
Mary McNulty. Home address or business address?
same as your, is that your husband with you?
Yes.
Okay, same address.
Same address. Residential, our home is 13606 Thayer Road, Hebron, Illinois.
So you don't have to lean over, you can pull,
You can move it.
Okay.
take this off and then hand it back and forth. Just push up on it. There you go.
Okay, so Mary McNulty, and home address is 13606 Thayer Road, Hebron, Illinois. Property that we're discussing is 1517 Route 47.
Okay. This is what we call a quasi-judicial proceeding, and I kind of control the flow of who speaks when and things of that nature. But for your purposes, you just can relax and tell us what you want, what you're looking for, why you want it, and any other information you can provide to us. Then we will ask you questions.
Okay. So we've been on the property since 2004.
You know, before we start, I have to do an oath of, make sure you're telling the truth.
So,
Both of you raise your right hands, and also, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth? If so, answer, I will.
I will.
Thank you. Go ahead now.
All right, so we've been on the property since 2004. As you know, or some of you may know, it was the fruit and vegetable stand by the Kleins. They were only in business there for about 6 months. And then the property had stayed vacant for about 3 years. When we took it over, literally there was nothing, not a tree planted, nothing on the property. There was a little bit of parking. I think they were only in business 6 months. We showed up, we started doing a garden center, pretty much exactly what we've been doing for 18 years. We sell trees, we sell shrubs, we sell landscape materials. Everything that's on that property, whether it's in a pile or in a bin or whatever, for some reason or whatever, we always have somebody looking for those products. Whether it's topsoil, compost, boulders, and again, trees, shrubs, perennials. It's been a roller coaster over the years. We've gotten back into the trees, we've gotten out of the trees, but we've been doing exactly for 18 years. And any garden center needs equipment, trucks, this, that, or other thing, if you're just selling trees and shrubs and whatever. And have we improved the property? Yes. Is there times there's stuff that needs to be cleaned up or whatever? Sure. But we pay our property taxes, which they're not cheap. We've been doing that for 18 years. We're current on those. Anything else you want to add?
Yes, initially we started.
You have to do it one at a time, so.
Oh, and then when I'm done,
And
what?
you want to describe that zoning around, going around, north, south, east, and west, what zoning is in existence now, if you know?
What zoning is it now?
Yeah.
B1.
No, no.
What is around you? What zoning is around your property?
There's a, Frank Harrison has a appraisal business right next door. And
That'd be to the south?
that would be to the north,
To the north?
directly to the north of us.
Okay.
And then to the south of us, there is a couple residential homes where I believe he grows vegetables for the farmer's market. That is to the south of us. Other than that, there's,
What's to the east?
what is to the east? Farmer's field, big,
And to the west?
and to the west, another field.
Okay. Questions from the board, starting with Mr. Schnabel.
Good afternoon. I'm just curious, looking through my notes, there's this notation that conditional use was granted for a solar farm to the west of you in 2019. Are you familiar with that?
To the west of me, no.
Permits have not been submitted yet, but I was just curious to know if you were aware of that.
Yeah, I did not know.
I have nothing else at this time.
Ms. Gardner. Okay, you're on mine.
Is it on? Yeah. Thank you. So what are your hours of operation?
Depends on the time of year,
Okay?
and we don't really have any set hours just because of how the retail has gone there. So, when we're there, I don't have somebody that's been there full-time, but if this all goes well, I anticipate hiring somebody full-time and having a full-time, but typically the hours would be from like 8 to 5.
Okay.
And then on Saturdays, it would probably be from like 8 to 1. That's,
Okay.
that would
Alright.
probably be about it.
And so you actually have customers coming to this site to purchase materials from you or shrubs or trees?
Correct.
Okay, so how many cars per day in and out on average would you say?
10, 15.
Okay. Oh, that sounds,
And that's why I say it's been kind of a roller coaster with,
yeah.
and that's why we kind of got forced into doing landscape installation because we weren't getting enough traffic to sustain, you know, $10,000 a year in property taxes and everything else that goes with it.
So you're kind of both landscaping company and...
Correct, and that's why, I guess that was the issue and why we're here.
Okay, all right, I understand.
Yeah.
Now, you said that you've been on the property since 2004,
Mhm.
and is that when you bought the property?
A gentleman by the name of Patrick Kulisek originally bought it. I brought him in as a private investor, and always knowing he was going to eventually turn it over to us, and that's where McNulty 47, my wife and I, purchased the property from him at that time.
Okay,
I don't know the exact date on that, but
I don't care. And you've been in business there for 18 years?
correct.
Okay,
I've been in business for myself in other aspects since I was 18 years old. I've not known anything else.
okay. All right, I think that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Smolinski.
I did have a chance to view your property site there, and I didn't see any trees or shrubs. Do you not have any now?
Not this time of year.
Okay, so you don't,
We try to no, we don't heal them in over winter. We dispose and get rid of, and then we'll bring them back in the spring.
do you have any plans to improve the property?
As far as what?
Um,
All those berms and all that stone and all that stuff you see was put in over the years by us because there was nothing there.
Screening?
I could offer additional screening if need be. I mean, there are shrubs, trees and shrubs on the berms already. I mean, I could offer, and that would not be a problem if it's 100% needed.
Yeah, because I did notice there is a residence to your north there.
You know,
Um,
and I had a conversation, and we have a very good relationship with him, and obviously he asked me if I wanted him to come, but Frank Harrison declined to, you're talking which way?
The residence
To the north.
to the north.
That's the business. That is Frank Harrison's appraisal.
It's not a residence?
It's not a residence.
You have a double billboard sign there. Do you plan to keep that?
They have a permit for it, yes.
I didn't know if it was under contract and you...
I am. I'm
So-
stuck under the contract right now. I'm stuck with that for another 4 or 5 years.
I see.
The previous landowner, Patrick Kulisek, signed an agreement with them
Probably
that
20 years or so.
it's ridiculous, and I'm getting paid peanuts for it. I've told them as soon as the contract's up, either they have to, you know,
Ante up or it's
or
not.
get it out of there, yeah. Because we can't block that. So once we do, if this all goes well and I reopen the retail, so if I bring in any bigger trees for sale there, I cannot obstruct that view of that billboard whatsoever, per our agreement.
Right, understood. When I talked about improvements there, it's pretty muddy there. You gonna put some more gravel in for the
Oh, absolutely.
parking area there?
Yeah. Just, again, we're not open this time of year. We do have an office in there that we are in there occasionally at this time of year. But as far as I'm concerned, the place is closed down and it's never that bad throughout the season.
Yeah, it was noted in here that there's been several zoning violations over the years. Could you expand on those?
I know there was one violation of an employee lighting a fire, and that was taken care of, and it's not going to happen again.
Okay, that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Mr. Gozen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry, I wasn't
fully aware that this was a retail facility.
Mhm.
Can you expand on what retail activities either do occur or what you see occurring?
Well, under the B1 zoning, as a garden center, you know, we're fully allowed to sell trees, shrubs, perennials, flowers, mulch, and all the sorts of things that go hand in hand with the landscape business. The problem that I guess occurred when they decided that we had too much stuff being parked outside and we are doing contracting. That's where the B1 zoning, I feel, is a little skewed, because I don't think there's one garden center that I can think of or know of that doesn't do landscaping alongside their retail garden sales. When somebody comes in and wants to buy a tree, typically, they want it planted and installed. And that's where we got forced kind of into it years ago.
Are you going to offer classes or maintenance in your landscaping?
Maintenance.
Right, so a person buys a tree, and for somebody like me, anything taller than 4 feet is considered a tree. I need some direction or instruction on,
That would be up to us to talk to you about that, and as well as our manager. But yes,
so you intend to have classes on the
we have no classes, but it's always a possibility. We did years ago.
And how did that business line turn out, or are you going to
Oh,
visit it?
well, 2008-9 came along and it pretty much wiped out, you know, the retail end of things for a bit.
Mhm.
And we have jumped back into it, and we've jumped back out of it, and we're hoping to jump back into it.
Your application form says that you employ on an average 10 to 12 people?
Correct.
That leaves-
Not on the property. That includes our landscape business. I would only envision employing probably 2 to 3 on the property.
So the retail customers, you believe, will find adequate parking and access?
Absolutely. Yep.
For that?
We never had a problem in the past.
Sorry. Do you find the height of the berms adequate, the bins being at 6 feet?
Yes.
And do you have any immediate plans or near-term plans for adding snow removal or de-icing on the property? Storage?
Oh, no. First, we just use bag salt. No.
No, but it's to sell as a
No.
retail or a wholesale or offer as an extension of your service?
No, no interest.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That seems to be the scope.
Yeah, I'm a little confused about the business and the property. Where do you do the business part of your work?
As far as landscaping,
There's landscaping, and what else is
well, there's the
there?
garden center, which is the property and everything that's on the property that we would provide for sale. And then we offer landscape services.
Can we look at the board up here, the screen? So, okay, so what is, looking toward the west, is that your building?
Yes.
So what is in that building?
One side of it is a shop to repair our vehicles and maintenance and all of our equipment. And on the right side is a big counter where we would have miscellaneous stuff for sale. Pots, bag soil, seed and blanket, staples, fertilizer, grass seed, polymeric sand, stone.
Okay. And you purchased this property in what year?
2004 or 2005. And again, I brought in a private investor, Patrick Kulisek, who bought it in 2004 and 5, but Stone Tree Landscapes was leasing it from him starting in 2004 and 5.
Okay.
McNulty 47 bought it from Patrick Kulisek, I don't know the date, maybe 6-7 years ago.
I guess I just wonder why you never discovered that you had the wrong zoning prior to now.
I figured we were covered by the B1 zoning with the garden center.
But where, the B1 zoning, if you mapped it out on, you want to put the diagram? If you're going to put the, where you say the B1 is, where is it on the subject? Don't you have the site plan review? Is that, can you make it bigger?
That's as big as it gets.
That's it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, orient me to where the building is now. Is it that blue?
No.
You can walk up there and see.
Oh, we should have missed her, but that's okay.
This area is the building.
Okay. And so you're saying that the B1 covers all of that?
What is typically a garden center? I mean, they all have,
Well, where did the B1 come from? Was that, you didn't petition to get a B1 zoning?
B1 was in place when it was a vegetable stand, when the property was purchased. It was already in place.
I guess I'm just confused as to how you can have two zonings overlapping.
Two zonings.
Isn't it B1 with a conditional use?
How did you come to apply? Is that what staff recommended?
Yes.
And so where are we now placing the conditional use? Is it on the whole property?
So they are requesting that the conditional use be for the entire property, yes.
And did staff look to see that the property is also covered by a B1 zoning?
So the B1 is the underlying zoning district. A garden center is a permitted use in that district. So they can continue to operate the garden center as a garden center, which is the retail aspect of it. The property has been evolving over the years and has now started, for whatever period of time, been offering landscaping, which is permitted, but when they started moving it into the outdoor aspect, it's the outdoor aspect of the storage of the vehicles and the bins that transitions it from a straight use to requiring a conditional use permit.
Well, I just was of the impression that you didn't get two types of zoning on one parcel, but maybe you can do
So
that.
it's not two different zonings,
It's two different businesses.
it's two different uses that are occurring on the same property, and that does occur throughout the county.
Okay, so in other words, the witness is not using the right language, right?
Potentially.
Okay. All right, so everything's okay there.
Everything's okay from what they're requesting, yes.
Okay. So is there more business to the north on 47?
Just that little house that Frank Harrison has the appraisal business out of.
And between Frank Harrison and Ray Cow Road, are there any businesses?
Oh, Radcow Road?
Not Ray Cow Road.
Raycraft?
You mean Charles?
Ware Road.
Oh, going back that way? No.
Okay. So you're like, you and Harrison are like the two businesses in that particular
That's it.
stretch on 47. Okay, I have no further questions.
Bob has another question.
Bob, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We clarified the zoning uses for the, what we'll call the landscaping. How does the sign fit in? And should the expiration, this may not be something for you, but expiration of the sign approval that was granted after the fact, will the renewal, where does that sit in terms of the timeline for the regulatory part of the property?
Okay, so the billboards would be classified as a off-premise advertising sign, okay? Correct me if I'm wrong, Kim, but the off-premise could potentially still, they'd have to come in for another building permit for it, but signage and the conditional use permit are not tied together.
So that's something that the applicant should be aware of in terms of conversation with the persons who locked you in, or in the history of it, is that the renewal will not be as simple as what I sometimes find with my online renewals in my application. It just doesn't keep rolling forever.
Okay.
It would be another building permit that you'd be applying for in that case.
To renew that,
Pole sign, or the off-premise sign there.
yep, got it.
Yeah.
Okay,
And happy to discuss that with you after the meeting.
okay.
Any further questions from the board?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, then questions from the staff?
No questions?
I have a question to the staff.
Okay, Don?
You noted in your background and request summary that there were 3 violations there.
Correct.
The petitioner spoke of one of them. What were the other 2?
So the ones, the fire one is not something that our department would handle, so I was not aware of that particular one. The 3 that I was aware of is in 2000, apparently a sign and or fence was put up without a permit. In 2006, another sign was installed, was not installed in compliance with the permit that had been issued. So there was some problem with how it was installed versus what was permitted. Okay. And then in 2020, they were cited for operating the landscape business with outdoor storage without proper zoning.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay, Mr. Goldsmith.
Thank you. How long is the conditional use available to the solar property to, I believe, to the west?
I will let Kim answer that question.
There was no expiration imposed on the solar farms per the new language of our ordinance. As long as they're subject to a governmental delay on the funding, they won't expire. So they're still waiting to get their funding from the state.
And in terms of the bin, what's the area that the bin may occupy, each bin, if they're limited to 6 feet in height, depth and width?
So I put the site plan back up onto the screen here. The purple area in the northern part there is where they currently have their bins and where they are indicating they want to continue to have them.
And then since you called attention to that, it says that those will be 8 feet in height.
So our recommendation as staff is to be consistent with the other landscaping businesses that we've had recently of limiting it to 6 foot.
But they may not want to go to
And that
voting
would
to them because there's not
Be something that the ZBA would include in its recommendation then?
So that's one of the conditions that I've recommended is that the bins not exceed 6 feet in height. And if you want to amend that, you have the right to amend that.
Yeah, but have you gotten the conditions that are recommended by the staff?
I don't believe we have.
Well,
So that should have been part of the staff report that you received.
It's in the section under staff assessment. very end of it.
Page 4 and 5 of 24.
Okay. Okay. No problem.
No problem with those. All right, you had a question of petitioner?
No questions of the petitioner.
She needs to give her report, the
Pardon me?
staff report.
Staff, what do you mean staff report?
We haven't had that yet.
Oh,
So typically you will ask me if I have
Testimony from
questions. Yeah, I was gonna say, you typically ask if I have questions and then ask if I will have a report. Okay, so, the board did ask about the zoning that surrounds the property. The property itself is zoned B1, has been B1 for quite a long time now. Property immediately to the north where the appraisal business is located, that property is zoned O for office/research. Everything else around it is A1. As previously noted, there's the A1C, the conditional use for the solar farm, to the west there. The surrounding uses, as you noted, Mr. Stone, is we have the commercial at this location and the appraisal to the north, mostly surrounded by agricultural lands with a little bit of residential to the south. Oops, There we go. The future land use destination for the property is residential. That the use does not match the future land use destination. However, that use has been there, like we've noted, for quite a while. It is possible that if and when this business were not to be there any longer, that the property could revert to allow a residential development to occur. So I would not let the use of residential necessarily derail this particular request. Staff does have the 4 conditions, which we have recommended, 5 conditions, excuse me, that they, like all our conditional uses, that expire in 10 years from the board approval, that the use conform to the site plan, that the maximum height of the bins and the material contained within exceeds 6 feet. If they ever do decide to have de-icing agents, that they conform with our standards for location, and that all other federal, state, and local laws will be met. That concludes my report.
now, is the staff recommending approval of this petition?
We have no problem with it.
Okay, so you're recommending approval.
Don't say it. Say it.
Say yes.
Say yes.
Do you have any questions of her based on what she said?
I do not.
Okay. Well, now we come to a little glitch that we have in the program here, and that is that we normally have 7 members present. It takes a vote of 5 members to get a recommendation to the county board for the zoning that you're requesting.
It's 5 positive votes,
Okay.
5 positive, what did I say?
just 5 votes.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think he figured that out on his own. But at any rate, you have the right to say, well, I don't want to have a vote with only 5 people.
Okay.
Or I say, I want to have a vote with 5 people, I'll waive if you don't want the vote, we'll get another date and we'll do the,
I would like to move forward.
okay. Then that's what we'll do. Okay, I'm going to close the hearing on the petition, and then I'm going to open a meeting of the zoning board for purposes of considering the petition of the petitioners. So at this time, let me,
Starts there.
okay, there's really two sets of recommendations from the staff for these proposals.
So I believe, Chairman, that you are looking at the standards page.
And why are there 5 on one and
So the second page that you're looking at there, that is a list of standards that the board is supposed to review.
so they're not conditions?
Those are not the conditions, no. The conditions are the 5 that are on the page before you.
Okay. Number 1, the conditional use shall expire 10 years from the date of approval by the McHenry County Board. Number 2, the conditional use shall substantially conform to the attached site plan. 3, the maximum height of bins and the materials contained within them shall not exceed 6 feet in height. Number 4, any storage of de-icing agents shall conform to the standards of section 16.56.060 the letter E of the McHenry County Unified Development Ordinance. Number 5, all other federal, state, and local laws shall be met. Are there any motions to amend those conditions?
Yes, sir. I'd like to propose to consider, since the petitioner did indicate that they are willing to improve the property with some landscape screening, I would like to propose that some landscape, natural landscape screening on the eastern border of the property. As I said, I noticed that there's some things facing Route 47. There's a dump truck facing there. There's two snow plows facing there, and then there's the piles of
Mr.
gravel.
Smolinski,
Sorry.
you need to make a motion. You're in the discussion already.
Okay.
What's your motion?
I would propose adding additional conditional use to screen the eastern boundary of the property with the natural landscape approximately 8 feet in height.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
Second, and moved by Mr. Smolinski, second by Mr. Cozen, that the owner be required to screen with, what was the height of the
8 feet.
8 feet?
On the eastern boundary of the property.
On the eastern boundary. That's the boundary facing 47?
Correct.
To the south. Because I don't have any room to the north.
So that was a question or concern of mine is if we could try to delineate a little bit better what area we're talking about. Are we talking from the south end of the building going south? Are we talking the north end of the building going south? How far south are we talking?
I would say that that should be subject to working through the planning and zoning department to find the correct solution.
I don't think we can do it that way, Don.
Well, because you look at the picture where that GMC truck is parked there.
Yep.
I can't put 8-foot trees running to the north to that telephone pole because then I'll be in a battle with the billboard people. An 8-foot tree right there. Now, from that GMC going to the south, yes, I could run some stuff along that property line.
Could you run it from here to here?
I have, you see a big Norway spruce sitting right there between that?
Yep, I see one.
Yep.
But you have a
But
truck,
that-
you have the truck and the plows facing.
No, they're right by that GMC. They're right next to it. You see where, you can you,
Here,
further down, further down,
here, here.
right there's the plow. Yep.
Okay, but the angle of it, it's not directly in front of the sign.
I'm just making a note of that, but I have no problem doing whatever. And then that little lot that's there, is where we're gonna have trees and whatnot for sale anyways, which will provide. But I don't have a problem, I like trees. I don't have a problem doing some screenage as long as we just don't block that billboard.
What is east of the area we're talking about? Or not east, west? Is that a parking area?
Yes. Plants and tree sales, where we would have them in that lot.
Is it a parking lot or is it a?
It's parking lot right now.
Aren't you?
He's talking right
Isn't
here.
your motion to have
There. Right there. So yeah,
a screening fence on the east side of the parking area? south
Well,
of the
the
building?
motion was to the east side of the property, subject to working with
oh, that's better.
planning and zoning.
There we
Okay,
go.
so Kim was able to find a summertime picture and a location was talking about the area I think we're talking about.
Yeah,
Now,
see,
when you
this,
look at it-
this this is the problem
Yeah.
here.
Right.
That stuff shouldn't be, that needs to be screened.
Yep.
Or moved, or.
That's fine.
Screened.
Okay.
Okay, so for purposes of the motion, may I recommend
The
that?
southeast portion of the property up to the billboard sign?
I'll let her finish what her thought.
That would work, assuming that works for the petitioners.
That's fine.
Okay,
Okay, give me the wording.
okay. So, the condition would be that a natural landscape barrier of 8 feet in height be located at the southeast corner of the property roughly between the billboard and the pine tree? Spruce?
Spruce Street?
Or the weeping mulberry, you know, however you wanna.
Okay,
All right, so that doesn't give a time that's to be completed? 6 months? 4 months, 3 months, 3 days?
so let me ask the petitioner, given that you're in the business, how long would it take you to install?
4 months, I mean, we could have it done in May, April, depending on the weather. It's not a problem. So I'd say 4 months is adequate.
No.
You want to speak?
And so does Bob.
All right, well, we got two two board members who want to speak, so I'm going to defer to the lady.
Of course.
Go ahead. What I noticed is that the site plan doesn't show parking there. Maybe that needs to be reflected on the site plan.
It's for plants and trees.
Plants and trees is what it says.
Mhm.
And if it's used for parking, then
It's
that's.
not used for
The
parking.
parking's on the other side of
But
Yeah.
the north side.
That stuff that's there is for sale, and it'll be removed.
Okay, so those don't need to be there.
No,
They can be somewhere else.
Correct.
Then we're talking screening is moot, is that right?
correct.
Okay, that's what I thought.
What's moved?
Well, it's not moved, but it can be done. It's not a problem.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Cozen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There was an interesting bit of technology because I had just been playing in that same area of Google, and I wish to note that one can clip and retain that image, and I would, on one, recommend that image be added to the file for future direction, rather than us try to decide which is the mulberry tree and which is the sign and so forth, so it can be maintained as is. The second,
Well, that motion's out of order right now because we have another motion pending. So
No,
we can't have two motions.
I'm not.
He's just
I'm saying that technologically, the image that was displayed to us right now is available. If it needs to be made a motion, I do so at the appropriate time. The second one
All
is,
I'm looking for language that will identify where this 8-foot vegetation fence is to be.
then may I suggest that was the illustration that was shown from Google Map of August 2022 of the frontage along Route 47 as displayed in this hearing.
Yeah, that's if we use different language for where this,
Right, but that gives us a context that we're finding that we're not able in the immediate information, being the colored site plan.
can staff put that together or not? The motion is to add, what's the term for this type of screening?
A natural vegetation screen.
So, that you know that means evergreen or what? There's a definition for that. And that's to be from, on the east side of the property.
So the southeast corner of the property from the, let me see this, from the billboard up to, you want to say the Weeping Willows, what you said?
Weeping mulberry.
Weeping Mulberry. Okay, I'm going to have an education here.
Okay.
As
So-
reflected on the image presented to the ZBA today. Does
Right.
that cover every?
So the motion that's pending is to include that language that you just recited, you'll take from the recording.
Yes.
And it was seconded by Cozen, made by Smolinski, and seconded by Cozen. It's the first time we've had these two together on something like this.
All right.
Could be dangerous.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, since there's one opposing, I'm going to do a roll call. Well, actually, we would do this in the next meeting, right? Now, let's do it here. Okay, calling the question, a vote of aye is to approve the requirement for a screening on the southeast corner of the property. Gardner,
Yes.
Cozen,
Yes.
Schnabel,
No.
Smolinski,
Yes.
Stone, yes. Okay, that concludes the motion on the conditions. Motion passes 4-1. Okay, now we're going to have accept a motion to approve the amended conditions and the petition. I'll entertain a motion. Who wants to make the motion?
I'll move that we approve the conditions as amended.
I'll second.
Okay, the motion is on the conditions. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to call the question. I thought I already just,
No, that was on the amended,
Was that
the
the
additional
amendment?
condition. So then we have to do it for all the conditions.
okay. This is on all the conditions. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do a roll call. Cozen,
Yes.
Schnabel,
Yes.
Smolinski,
Yes.
Stone, yes. And Gardner.
Yes.
So the conditions are approved. Now we'll have a motion on the petition itself. A vote of aye is to approve the change of the zoning from
Conditional use.
to add a conditional use as described in the file.
So moved.
Moved by Gardner, second.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Cozen. Discussion starting with Ms. Gardner.
Okay, this is a landscaping / garden center. Okay. 5.35 acres. It's been in business for 18 years. I went by this site, and I also did the Google drive-by of your site. And it's a very nice looking site, actually. I think it's one of the nicer looking landscape businesses that I've seen. I think that this business is something that is needed in our county. I think that it's placed in a very good area for this type of business. It's not interfering with anything, and yet it's accessible for customers and so on and so forth. So I believe that the standards for approval have been met, even though we didn't go through those, but I did. I think you do meet the standards, and so I'm going to be in favor of this.
Mr. Schnabel, and by the way, I'd like to hear what that no yes thing was about.
Indeed, you will, in my narrative. First of all, let me say I'm in complete agreement with what Ms. Gardner just said, especially in reference to the comment, for a business like this, the outside appearance of it is very nice. So I compliment you on that. I feel we get a little carried away sometimes with some of these screening requirements. I don't see anything in the photograph that was particularly objectionable as far as compared to everyone else that I see. If I were a business owner and I were selling retail materials, I would want a customer to be able to drive down Route 47 and see what I have available on the lot number one. Number two, I think it's unfair to require you to screen a not particularly disadvantageous looking small piece of property with some strange requirements that don't apply to any other conditional use of this nature to that certain specific extent without a great need to do so. I don't see that great need. I don't, as a comparison for what I'm thinking about, for example, if I owned Bull Valley Ford and I wanted to renew my business parcel, I don't think screening the front row of cars with pine trees would necessarily be advantageous for my business. That's the way I'm looking at it. That's why I voted no in this particular instance. If you were a gravel pit or some other extreme usage, I would fully support something like that, and that, in my opinion, is where we normally require such a thing. I just hate to see you have to jump through extra hoops, in my opinion. Otherwise, I fully support your petition.
Thank you. Mr. Smolinski.
I agree with Ms. Gardner's comments with regard to this petition. It's been a long-standing business, and we hope they continue to be successful. I will support the petition.
Mr. Cozen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For purposes of brevity, I too support this petition, but noting that there are potential customers further to the east, and hopefully they would be looking upon this as a source of trees. As one who's come late to this county, I recognize that they are brought here and not native around the houses and the landscaping that we now so presently enjoy, and not be discouraged by what Route 47 looked like in 2023, some many years after their residency here. And so for that, I appreciate the petition and the conditions that have been put forward by my colleagues. Thank you.
I agree with pretty much what's been said. Especially I do agree with Mr. Schnabel, but I was so wrapped up in trying to figure out what that other motion was that I didn't think it through. So I wish you would have told me your position before we voted on those conditions. But at any rate, it's not, the screening is not exactly a big deal. It's a pretty small requirement. And probably you've been very gracious about the changes, so I'm sure you'll take care of it. Thank you very much. That concludes the,
We need
Yeah, we
a
have to vote.
oh, we haven't voted on the whole package. Ay, ay, ay. This has been a confusing day for me.
Good thing I'm here.
Good thing you're here, Chief. Okay, so the motion is to approve, and I'll remind you that we need all yes votes in order to approve the petition. So we'll call the question. Cozen?
Yes.
Schnabel?
Yes.
Smolinski?
Yes.
Stone, yes. And Gardner?
Yes.
5-0 vote. It'll go to the county board with recommendation to approve. Thank you very much. That concludes this hearing.
Thank you.
So you'll be going to the March 16th?
Next week.
So March 21st will be the county board meeting. You do not have to attend.
I will.
It will